Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs, and in this video I thought I would give you guys a behind the scenes look at the making of the music video Nerdbox, which I released last weekend. And around the time I'm recording this, it's a little bit under 50,000 views, and I think by the time I release this, it will be past that. So I want to start off by thanking you guys so much for giving it the love, giving it the attention. It took a lot of work making this in the first place, and so I'm really happy that it's done well, and I want to thank everyone who came over from the Hermitcraft recap, or maybe from Mumbo's Twitter or his channel, and came and checked out the video. I'm really happy with how well it's gone. I want to thank you guys up front here. So yeah, in this video, as a bit of a reward, I'm going to take you through the process of editing the music and the video together, and give you a bit of a behind the scenes look at how some of this stuff was done.
Box. We've got the shulker box, which we're going to swap out to be the fancy box. This is our nerd box, and then we have the base box.
So of course the video starts off with me in the Hermitcraft Recap headquarters, as I've called it. Now the Hermitcraft Recap headquarters obviously doesn't exist in real life. I work in the UK and Zloy still lives in Russia, so we have a pretty big gap. You know, we can't share an office space. So this room is actually modelled on my real life office in my house. There's a lot more artwork on the walls here in Minecraft than there is in my real life office, because we've only moved in kind of recently and I haven't really been able to decorate all that much. But this desk is roughly in the position that my actual desk is, and so forth. There are curtains up here, the window there, the door there. That's basically all the stuff that exists. In fact, somebody in the comments pointed out that this spider here looks like there's a spider in the corner. There is actually a spider that lives in that corner of my office that I haven't managed to get rid of yet. So that's actually a more realistic detail than you might think. But yeah, the speakers are there, my computer is in front of me. This is basically how I operate day to day, except I have a PC with two monitors instead of a laptop computer. Some people have actually spotted that it's got a potato on the top. The potato computer joke was one that I wanted to put in there kind of early, but just as like a throwaway thing. So obviously the shot pans in, and then you get to this bit here where I'm watching the actual video. And so this footage here is actually taken from Mumbo's episode itself. With the Hermitcraft Recap, we have a tool we use to download clips of the YouTube videos that we can put into the Hermitcraft Recap. And I use the same tool to export Mumbo's footage and use it in my own video here. It's only a 15-second clip or thereabouts, and it's just him looking through the shulker boxes in his episode 91, which is where I took all the audio for the song. So to get this to play inside of the Minecraft item frame here took a couple of different things. It takes the corner pin tool, which actually tracks along with the motion of this shot. As you can see, when we get to the point where it's zooming in on the computer screen, it actually stays within the boundary of the item frame. So if I disable this track here, you can see that's the item frame border, and then when you enable that again, it kind of pops into place. It's not perfect. Like, this is very time consuming to do. You kind of have to keyframe everything and make sure that each individual point moves a certain amount. And there's also a basic 3D effect here which is being applied to make it look like the image is swiveled depending on the position of the camera relative to the computer screen. So it all actually looks like it's being displayed on the screen. And that took a little bit of time. That took probably the longest out of all of the editing I had to do for this video. Then of course it cuts back to a shot of me, and I'm starting to doze off. You can see the screen blurring ever so slightly as I nod my head, and then it blurs even more as it switches to this shot where the camera is pulling out, and then the rest of the video is meant to be a kind of dream sequence. So before we go into the rest of the video, I want to give you guys an idea of how I created the song itself, and this was all done in software called Logic Studio 8, which is on my really old laptop at this point. This is the recording software I was trained on throughout my time at university when I did my music production degree, and so it's pretty old at this point. Logic has gone through a couple of iterations since this was the main version, but it's still got a lot of the tools there that I can use to make music like this. So the first thing I needed to do was import the footage into Logic and cut it up into the samples you see here at the top. So the first 3 or 4 tracks there are audio tracks, and those basically just comprise samples of the Mumbo Jumbo video. So I've imported a section of him talking and cut it up into the smaller parts that I wanted to use as rhythmic elements in the song. The way he explains and names all of the shulker boxes in his original video felt so rhythmic in the first place. We've got the bread bin, we've got the rocket box, we've got the handy box, we've got the stone box. It had a flow to it that immediately suggested to me that it should be made into some sort of song. And aside from Mumbo himself, the inspiration for this song was kind of a band called Lemon Jelly, who might still be around, but if you haven't heard of them, check out their music, especially Lost Horizons, because that's kind of the album that I drew a lot of the ideas for this song from, especially songs like Elements or Ramblin' Man. They've got a very sample-based, very looping kind of energy to them, and I thought that would probably be a good direction for this, because I can't make dance music particularly well. I've made 8-bit kind of chiptune music before, but I can't make dance music and make it sound as professional as remixers like Ellie Beatmaker can. So aside from the samples themselves, what we've got down here is a set of virtual instruments, including drum kits, bass guitars, acoustic guitars, a ukulele, a funk horn section, electric piano, and some percussion. And some of these double up, so some of them are playing the same notes but on different instruments to give it a slightly more well-rounded tone. And then some of the drum tracks are actually performing different roles. So there is one that's just the kick and the snare with a little bit of hi-hat thrown in. There are some that just add extra cymbals that I put in afterwards, and there is one that is just congas. One thing I knew going into this was that when he says bass box, which is the last shulker box he actually names in the long list of them, there had to be a really strong bass guitar line at that point. So I put a lot of work, first of all, into getting a bass riff down. But part of the brass riff is actually based on Can't Stop Me by Proletter, which is the song Mumbo uses for his intros. You'll recognize the section that goes da-da-da-da-da-da-da is kind of similar to his intro, which goes da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's just taking the first few notes of that and then finishing it a little bit earlier. I wasn't originally sure what I was going to call this song, and I just ended up with the working title Boxes, but then I ended up repeating the sample This Is Our Nerd Box over and over again, and it just kind of stuck. Nerd Box seemed like the thing to call it, and even my wife suggested calling it Nerd Box when I was playing her the tracks, so that name definitely kind of stuck. So with the music done, obviously I had to come up with a catchy video for it, and rather than reuse Mumbo's footage over and over again, which could get visually quite repetitive, and obviously you'd be using somebody else's footage, which is something I try not to do too much of, I decided to make the video entirely using the replay mod, which is a mod for Minecraft that you can download from the link in the video description, and it allows you to record the Minecraft environment and then set up camera moves afterwards, sort of like a director's mode on another video game like GTA or theater mode in Halo, any kind of game like that where you can get an instant replay. Even sports games like Rocket League or FIFA kind of have an instant replay mode. It's kind of like that, except slightly more involved. So I guess I'll take you through the video itself shot by shot so you can see absolutely everything that's going on here, and I'll point out a few interesting things that happen along the way. So obviously this isn't Mumbo Jumbo himself, this is my wife's Minecraft account, which I use as my camera account a lot of the time. It's just logged in with Mumbo Jumbo's skin applied to it. Obviously you can download Minecraft skins pretty much anywhere. There are several search engines and tools that you can use to download Minecraft skins just by searching for somebody's Minecraft name. In this shot, he's placing all of the shulker boxes in the order that he lists them in episode 91 of Hermitcraft, and this one here is actually a shulker, which I just got to teleport by breaking the block underneath it, which is a fairly common behavior for shulkers. And right there, he's standing next to the redstone box, which he calls his nerd box, and that kind of leads into what the whole song is about. And this sequence of shots was basically the first thing I thought of doing with this video, and it was my absolute favorite thing about it. Basically, I envisioned a series of shots where the camera zoomed in on a shulker box, and each time it opened, it revealed a different scene, kind of in the same way that the White Stripes did their Seven Nation Army video. It just kind of keeps tunneling through to new things. And this was actually quite straightforward to set up. It just took a lot of practice with the replay mod and a decent amount of timing. Each of these scenes is also a world I've kind of built myself from a creative world. So obviously this is a super flat world that's just a field full of wheat for his bread box. The next one is a rocket box that's a sandstone flat world, actually the place where he was placing the shulker boxes earlier. If you see in the shot where he turns around and the shulker is teleported, you can see the rocket there in the background. And moving on from that, you have the handy box, which actually has boats and hose in the background as a kind of reference to some other stuff Mumbo has done in the past. And this was kind of like a workshop area where there's lots of crafting tables, storage chests, a couple of anvils to either side, that kind of thing. We go through that, we get to the stone box, which is just a giant cave full of stone, the cobble box, which is a literal cobble box, and it zooms in for him saying the shulker box, and it actually turns out to be a shulker inside the box, which I have to fight to replace it with the fancy box, because he says we're going to replace it with the fancy box. Now, the first couple of times this happens, it's my character, and the third and fourth times through, it's Mumbo's character. So I actually composed each of these shots twice, and then repeated them throughout the video when the kind of chorus part comes in. It does exactly the same thing for the stone box, but this time the cobble box has the redstone box in it, which he calls his nerd box. So I figured what better place to represent Mumbo Jumbo's nerd box than his Redstone testing world, which he made available for download not too long ago. And in this last shot, when the base box opens, it leads to Mumbo's Season 4 base. Now, obviously, I'm doing the Season 4 base and not the Season 5 base because I don't have access to the Season 5 Hermitcraft server, and obviously, I can't really ask one of the hermits to go and take a bunch of replay mod footage of Mumbo's base for me to use in this video. I also kind of wanted to keep it a surprise, so I didn't even want to engage with any of the hermits and ask them if they could do it for me. So I downloaded the Season 4 world from the Hermitcraft website, went to Mumbo Jumbo's base, and took a bunch of shots of the surrounding area. So it's mostly his drone, but also some of the redstone contraptions he's made around the side, and him just staring around at the place, thinking it was a good idea. And then, because the list of shulker box repeats, he places down a shulker box, it opens, and then the whole sequence begins again. At this point in the second chorus, when he says the words bass box, a lot of instrumentation drops out, and you're left with just a bass guitar. And so to play on that, I decided to create a giant bass guitar in a creative world. There's a lot of redstone stuff on here, actually. There's some kind of dispensers, pistons, and that kind of stuff. I filmed a little bit of myself running around as my wife's camera account, as Mumbo, just looking at the guitar, and then cut back to the shulker box shots here and there as well. And this is where the line, "I should have done this much sooner, much sooner," comes in, and we're back into the chorus, but this time, each time the shulker box opens, it's Mumbo standing there instead of me. Now, I just went through and recorded each of the shots a second time. You'll notice Mumbo is standing in different places to me, so it's not like I could just swap the skin over. It's actually acting out different stuff each time. One of the funny things I thought I could do is when Mumbo fights the shulker in the cobble box, he actually kind of loses to it a little bit. He goes to hit it, it starts firing at him, he gets hit by a shulker bullet and ends up floating up towards the ceiling. Eventually, in this next shot, he has to place a shulker box on the wall to open it, and then it still transitions into his redstone box, which I ended up using as the third iteration of the base box, which I kind of wanted to be something different each time. And then you just cut to a shot of me roaming around his redstone world, checking everything out, and generally marveling at the whole thing. Now, of course, this thing is full of redstone contraptions, most of which I don't really understand, but what I did understand was the doors, and obviously you could have transitions where he comes out of a door and kind of jumps up and down in time to the music. I was really happy with this shot because this is a kind of self-activating nether portal that retracts these iron blocks before it lights the portal up, and then it just left this one iron block there, and I don't know if in the finished contraption he'd fixed that, but that was just something that I thought was really funny because the line perfect, perfect, perfect coincides with this clip, and he just bops that iron block out of existence like it wasn't even there. Now, of course, because I'm a builder and I'm a little bit of a derp when it comes to redstone, I figured it would be kind of fun to have me attempting really, really basic redstone contraptions, like here's a redstone torch trying to power a redstone lamp, but I put the repeater the wrong way around so that it doesn't input correctly. And I'm turning to Mumbo to try and get approval, and Mumbo just shakes his head. He's like, "No, mate, you've got it wrong." And so in a shot shortly after that, he's just correcting it, putting the repeater the right way around, and I'm really happy that he's taught me something new about redstone. And because I can't get away with him making me look like the fool, we get him attacked by shulkers some more. And this next one is the one transition I kind of cheated. You'll notice when this shulker box opens, it's just a shutter kind of wipe instead of the shulker box opening. It just opens out like a kind of barn door thing, and that's entirely my fault because I didn't set up a shulker box transition from that scene into this scene, because when I was cutting stuff together, I didn't imagine this scene going there, so I just kind of threw it in at the last minute and decided, you know what, a wipe is good enough. And last of all, the song starts to fade out, and so do the images on the screen, so we're just repeating what's happening over and over again in the background as the shot gets darker and darker, and then finally the whole thing just fades out towards the end. So I hope you've enjoyed this little look at the inner workings of what went into Nerdbox. Thanks very much for watching this video. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and don't forget if you want to download the song yourself, you can get it from the link that's on screen right now and in the video description. Please don't be put off by the fact that the Bandcamp page says buy now when you try and download the track. It actually lets you set a price of 0, and I get about 200 free downloads per month. So unless a bunch of people have decided to download the song, you can probably get a copy for free, or if you're feeling generous, you can make a donation and download it to help support my channel. My name has been Pixlriffs, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye for now.